Hello, everybody. This is Mike Stoffel, one of your Foundations 1 instructors, and I'm here to give you an interactive video lesson on two topics for tonight. That would be effective teacher praise and using homework effectively. So we're going to jot through some slides real quickly here, and then we're going to give you a couple of tasks, and then you'll get back to our interactive video. For our main researchers, they are Harris Cooper, Herbert Wahlberg, Joyce Epstein, and Ronald LeConte. When it comes to homework, we probably all have horror stories about, I got assigned to do all the odd math problems in my math class, or my language arts teacher made me rewrite a word I had misspelled 500 times. But we also know that there are some incredible benefits to homework. So one of the things I want you to think about right now are, what are some of the benefits and horrors, especially in our current learning environment when it comes to students, parents, teachers, and school itself? All right, so here's what we know about homework. And this research has, again, that level 3 research, that seminal research that says this has been replicable across a wide variety of settings. We know that there is a positive relationship between homework and student learning, and this is especially true at the secondary level. We know also from research the primary focus in our elementary schools when it comes to homework should be towards reading and making sure our students are proficient readers. Our research findings tell us that homework can benefit students by increasing their skills, achievement, and test scores. We can work on homework completion. I know in my classroom right now, in the hybrid environment, that is a huge issue. We know we can develop a more positive attitude towards homework when we have, in school, when we have well-defined homework for students that is engaging to them. We know homework can help the self-concept of the learner improve, and when that happens, they become more engaged, and they become more engaged, they learn more. We know that well-designed homework can also help the view of the parents and whoever else is in the home as more similar to that of the teacher in school. I think this is especially important in our hybrid and distance learning environments. We know we're asking a lot of parents. If we can get parents on our side because our homework is well-designed and they understand it and help their kids, our students are going to be more successful. And lastly, we need to realize as educators that learning takes place outside of our classroom. Now, we all know that intrinsically, but we also need to show that we value that learning outside of our rooms as well. So we want to encourage family involvement. And like I said, this is especially true in our current hybrid and distance learning environments. Families are more likely to reinforce and extend classroom instruction at home when teachers, we've got to give them high quality homework assignments. We provide home learning ideas and materials. And that can be really difficult sometimes because we don't know what students have or don't have. But if we are requiring them to have it, we should provide them with it when it is reasonable for us to do so. And lastly, we need to offer guides for how families can help. I know, like my 4th grade son, he tells me, "Dad, you're not supposed to help me with that." And I want to help him, but I also know that sometimes the teacher wants the student to do it all by themselves with as little family intervention as possible. So we have to make sure that those expectations are clearly communicated with our parents and our families. So this is another place where we ask you to pause. There's going to be a Jamboard in our Google Classroom. It'll say something like effective homework. So I want you to think about a homework assignment you have given recently that was successful. In other words, most students completed it and most students' work was of high quality. 2, I want you to place a note on the Jamboard that briefly describes that homework. And then 3, I want you to reflect on the ways in which this assignment reflects the characteristics of effective homework that we've talked about. When you're done, please come back to the video. In research, there are 4 main types of homework: practice, preparation, extension, and skill integration. Practice is reinforcement, application, and working to attain automaticity. So that could be things like in math, it's multiplication tables. In language arts, it might be identifying nouns versus verbs. Second type, preparation. We're readying students for that next learning activity. I know in my language arts classroom, in the online environment, I've done some KWLs where I ask students to watch a video and then fill out the what do I know, what questions do I have, and what do I want to learn. Third type of homework, extension. These are long-term projects where students are oftentimes creating something based on the skills that they've learned. And this type of homework is often included with our fourth type, which is skill integration. This is where students are having to apply many of the skills or concepts they've learned across the year or the trimester or in other classes to the production of a single product. And those are our four main types of homework. So let's talk a little bit more about those four main types in some level of specifics. So when it comes to the four types of homework, one of the things we want to consider is what is practice. So we talked about that it's reinforcement, application, annotating, automaticity. Well, what makes good homework? In this case, practice homework. Match the ability and background of each student. Again, this gets back to Vygotsky's zone of proximal development. Make sure that it is appropriate for their ability. Be creative and not repetitive. So it's really easy to get into the trap of flashcards or note cards, and that's okay for limited amounts, but we also want to have some level of creativity that practices the same skill, but perhaps in a different way. And it's also really important that the student receives feedback from the teacher. How is the practice going? Now, there are lots of ways to give this feedback to students and allow them the opportunity to show you what they're doing. The next type of homework is preparation. Again, it's readying students for the next learning activity. We oftentimes provide background knowledge or information. So that could be something as simple as reading an article, watching a video, doing a KWL chart, etc. And oftentimes it requires gathering or organizing information that you're already providing them instead of the students having to search for it. Third time, again, extension. Those are the long-term projects that we talked about previously. It requires individual application, research, and studying outside of the classroom. In addition, it's frequently based on teacher or student identified problems. So what is the issue, or what is the problem students are trying to solve, or what is the topic they want to explore? And this results in a performance or a product. So that could be students creating a slideshow, performing, if you're in language arts, performing a soliloquy. It could be creating a project, whether that's a simple birdhouse in technology class, or CTE classes, creating a meal for your family, etc. So, guidelines for effective extension assignments. Select subjects and tasks that are appropriate for the learner, like we talked about previously. Communicate expected outcomes to the students. So why are they doing this? What is the purpose behind it? Like we talk about in the Teacher Academy, it's important to start with the why. Include student and family members in the planning, and include a plan for use and sharing of the project. So are they creating it so it can be used just in class, or are there other practical applications? Make all the necessary resources available for students. This is one that I am really going to struggle with, I think, as we perhaps move into distance learning and hybrid learning. Is I don't want to give my students so many resources that they're overwhelmed by the number, but I also have to give them some resources so they can utilize them. And develop a schedule for progress reports. I like to have multiple check-ins during long-term projects, and I like to chunk it up for students. I usually do a daily to-do list, give them different deadlines for stages of the project, and then check in, of course, frequently. And then set a firm and reasonable due date. It's okay to say when the project is due. I would always encourage us to accept student work, even if it's a little bit late. We need to give our students and ourselves some grace at this time. So when the student gets it done, allow them to utilize their full grade. And our last type of homework is skill integration. Again, this kind of coincides quite a bit with our previous type, if you remember that, extension. But now skill integration requires students to apply many separately learned skills or concepts. And these could be skills or concepts that are learned in cross-disciplinary ways. So if you're, let's say, writing a proposal for an investment in economics class at the high school, or maybe students have learned about measuring in science class, and they're going to apply that to family and consumer science class, etc. And lastly, it's production of a single product, such as a book report, research projects. I've gone to giving my students multiple ways they can show me what they're trying to learn or the skills that they've developed as a result. So think about that assignment that you wrote down previously and you posted on the Jamboard. What type of assignment is it? This time, I want you to place a sticky note under the appropriate heading on the Jamboard. There should be a second frame under the Jamboard, and you'll see preparation, practice, extension, and skill integration. Please place the description of your homework assignment under the appropriate heading for the type of homework it is. So here's what we know about homework and student achievement. The greatest effects for homework are usually in high school. Oftentimes when students are actually completing and engaging in homework, it leads to higher grades. And it can equalize our students across varying ability levels, as long as we keep in mind the appropriate level for students and well-designed homework. There is minimal effect in elementary school, except, and this is a big one, except for home reading programs. We all know how important our students' reading comprehension and skills are. We know that just 5, 10, 15, 25, 30 minutes a night makes a huge difference in long-term educational outcomes. However, homework in elementary school can have other positive effects. It can extend our students' learning time. This is especially going to be true as we transition into hybrid and possibly distance learning. It can help build positive study habits and develop an academic work ethic. And can also positively affect students' persistence to complete their homework when they get to our secondary level. So, synopsis. Effective homework covers material taught and reinforces our previously learned skills. We can integrate complex skills previously taught, but shouldn't be used to teach new complex skills. Make sure that it's designed at an appropriate level of difficulty. Approximately 95% of the time, students should be successful. And it should be motivating, relevant, and useful, especially for our older students. Homework is taken seriously by students when teachers prepare written directions, or in our case, maybe even video directions. Discuss what is to be done and why it needs to be done. They integrate assignments with their classroom instruction, and they give a grade for it. That last part, give a grade for it, I found that to especially be true in our hybrid learning scenario. If I don't at least make it worth 5 points, 10 points, students do not do that work. And that can be really frustrating as a teacher because we don't want to have to quote unquote grade everything. But it's one way we can possibly help students to make sure they're completing all of the homework, which will help them increase their academic performance. So how do we make it user-friendly? Well, let students know the reasons for the assignment. Again, starting with that why. We do a daily language workout in 9th grade English, and I tell students it's to help prepare them for the ACT English test. It's to help improve their writing skills so they know when I write on their paper, comma splice, what they need to do. It's important that we assign both short and long-term homework. It's always good to have kind of two different strands of a class running, maybe a long-term project with various check-in points, but also daily assignments. And provide a variety of assignments with different levels of accountability. And make the work a part of students' grades. This is especially difficult sometimes when we're talking about process. It's easy to grade a product, but how do we put a grade, or how do we allow or seek to recognize and give credit for the process students are using as a part of their grade as well? So by now you've got to the end of, hopefully this will be about a half-hour long interactive video. You'll get 1 hour's worth of credit towards Foundations 1 once you have completed this interactive video, which I'll be posting on Nearpod.